Hi, I'm Neeti Kulkarni. I play the viola. I've played the viola for the last, 7 years, and I started playing violin when I was 5, and I'm 19, so that must be 14 years. So, yeah, 14 years total of string playing, but 7 years of viola playing.
Is there any reason why you picked viola and you stuck with viola?
Yeah, so I played the violin like any poster Asian child would. My parents started me on violin because I was listening to a CD of classical music with them when I was little, and I heard the violin and I liked it. My sister already played the piano, so they went to the next best thing, the violin. And I started playing it, and I liked it, but I was just like all other elementary school kids playing a string instrument. I just did it when my mom made me practice, and I practiced like 20 minutes before my lesson started. I didn't really take it seriously. And then I switched to a teacher that was pretty mean, and she ended up making me cry every single lesson. And so that was pretty hard. And so my mom was telling me you should probably like not do this, like you don't seem to be happy. But I wasn't a person who was like I'm gonna quit. I was like I need to like keep on doing this. This is something like I'm not a quitter. Like this is something I'm gonna like ride through to the end. And then while I was with this teacher, she encouraged me to join a youth symphony, the Minnesota Youth Symphony program, where I'm from. And so I was there, and then it was interesting because I was enjoying music so little when I was with this really mean teacher. But then I was in this program with a bunch of other students around me who were all playing music, and I started to really like it, and it was fun. It was the first like real good orchestra setting I had ever been in, and people were all serious about music there. And one day during my rehearsal, they were asking for violinists to switch over to viola, and I was also someone who liked to try new things. So I just raised my hand and I said I'd try viola. And I went to the nearest music shop near my house, and I rented a pretty cheap viola from them, and I started playing it. And I remember telling my mom that playing a violin was like listening to the sound of like something like sugary like candy, but playing a viola sounded like a deep rich chocolate. And I don't know, I just really liked it, so that's when I switched to viola. And then I realized I was really happy playing it, and so that's when I stopped playing the violin mostly and just went to viola full time.
The
Yeah, it
violin.
has a darker timbre for sure, and it's like its color is gorgeous, so I love it.
Yeah, I think that's very cool. You said a little bit that your teacher was very mean. Do you think that that was like an integral part to you, like advancing in the instrument, or no?
No, it definitely hindered my development. How was I trained? So I've had, before college, I had three teachers. I had one teacher who like just started me out on the instrument. I was just going through the Suzuki books. I wasn't doing the Suzuki method, which was like memorizing it and not reading the notes. I was just playing the music that was in the book. Then I went to the mean teacher who did progress like my playing, but I was very like scared of playing. I was nervous to play in front of crowds. I wasn't confident in myself at all. And then I went to my third teacher, who I stayed with, who was my viola teacher, who I stayed with the whole time, until I graduated high school. And she was the first person I've met who truly just loved music for being music, and she showed me that playing music was just about having a passion for it. And like she was maybe the least accomplished musician in like explicit terms, like compared to my previous teacher. She didn't have like a tenured position in the Minnesota Orchestra like some of my other friends' teachers did. She was always running from place to place, but like her sound was gorgeous, and she was an amazing player, and she used her music for doing things that were good for the world. We busked to like together every summer. She ran a workshop where she took her advanced viola players, and we busked for money and then donated all the money to a charity of our choice that year. And every Christmas she took us to a homeless shelter, and we played Christmas music for people. And she showed me and she showed everyone else how much like music could make an impact in people's lives. So I think that's like the way I was trained if that's what you're asking, like the way how I've come to really love the instrument, it's not just impacting me, it's impacting others, and I want to try and do as much as I can for others. So that's why I play music.
I also think it's very telling of the fact that you're saying it was not very valuable for you to feel like that kind of old school teaching of like beating the instrument into you,
Mm-hmm.
and you needed something more wholesome and meaningful.
It's funny because I started out as a violinist, which violinists are known for like their virtuoso playing, and violists are definitely not. But I kind of like to try and defy what people think about violists. People have told me a lot that my viola has a really great tone and I can play really loudly, and people are always surprised at the volume I get with my viola compared to a lot of other violas, which kind of sound kind of washed up a lot because they're just like bigger. I have a smaller viola, it's very bright in tone, and I love it for that reason. And so my favorite thing to play is something where like it's kind of like a show off kind of piece where I can just like soar up the viola this time instead of like the violin. And like I love playing high notes on the viola because it just got such an interesting color and sound, and it's just different. Like I can play violin pieces on a viola, but it sounds better in my opinion.
Yeah. You're talking a little bit about the kind of perceived like view around violists versus like violinists. And so where I wanted to go next to talking about was the way you interact with your quartet. And how did those kind of preconceived ideas of the viola, does any of that play into that or not really?
What you mean, like that I should just like stay in like the back and not do much? It's interesting. One of the movements we're playing this semester, we're playing the Ravel String Quartet, and we're playing the third movement of it. You'll hear that next week. It's a complete viola solo, so I actually have to play out as much as I can in most of it. And a lot of the quartets that we have played have been me like doing like supporting melody. But one comment that we all like one time last year, we were playing a Beethoven string quartet, and Andrea was coaching us, and she there was this one part where I had the melody, and then they had the melody, and I had the melody, and they had the melody, and it was just like a switch off. And Andrea was like, "It's Neeti versus the rest of you, and somehow Neeti's winning this." I just kind of like I'd like to go at the instrument, and sometimes it's too much, and I definitely do things wrong all the time, and I'm like the others have to tell me a lot, like, "Hey, you're definitely off rhythm," and I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I know that today." Like I know that my rhythm is terrible a lot, but I just kind of like to play what I want to play. So it's hard in a quartet when it's like everyone's relying on like everyone like being on the beat and being exactly going with the music, but it comes in handy when I have like solos and stuff. I think my personality is someone who likes, I don't call attention to myself right away. I think I used to do that when I was little, but I kind of stopped doing that because I don't really like calling attention to myself. But I like being someone that people like begin to see as someone who's like worthwhile. Like after a minute when they are like, "Oh, this person has something like legitimate to say." I want people to notice me in that respect. I want people to, because I work really hard in everything that I do, particularly music. So when I want people to be like, "Oh, like this is just a viola." So people definitely like don't look at violists a lot as like these amazing players, but I hope that like people hear me start playing and they're like, "Wow, she actually knows what she's doing." And I don't know. I think I also have like a sense of humor too, which is kind of fits in with that as well.
You relate to the viola.
Yeah, I do. There's a million viola jokes out there.
Yes, there are. Do you think that the other members of your quartet, do you think their personalities come through the same way? When you hear a piece together, do you feel like you're hearing everybody's personality?
In some ways, yes. So Ben is amazing and he's a great violinist. And he is not the most humble, but I think that's what he needs to be as amazing violinist he is. He is very wonderful and down to earth in many ways, but I think with his playing, he knows he's good, and because he should know that he's good. I don't want him to be humble when he's like the first violinist of our group a lot, and he has perfect pitch, so he just soars up to the notes and he knows what he's doing, and he just is not afraid to tell me that I'm off. Like his personality of being like confident in himself in that way definitely comes through. And same with Amy. Amy is also very confident in herself, and she's our other violinist, and she's also amazing. And both of them go really well with each other. Like, yeah, they have to do a lot of like melody, counter melody stuff with each other a lot since they're the first and second violin, and it goes like really well together. And Ellie is our cellist, and she's pretty soft spoken, but she definitely is like an activist in many respects, and like that power like that she gets in those ways, you can definitely see it in like her powerful like cello playing. Yeah.
You play primarily Western classical music. Mm-hmm. Do you find yourself ever really interested in the idea of delving into other genres, or is this where you reside and this is what you love?
No, I definitely want to explore other genres. My family is originally from India, and I definitely am a person who stands out in my family, like particularly me, because I have lighter skin, I have blue eyes, and I grew up in the US and I don't speak the language. I understand a little bit of it, but I don't speak it. And so I already stand out as this one, like, kind of like American girl in my family. And, and then, here I am, like, I do things like play the viola in like orchestras and quartets, and my family loves to listen to it, but it's definitely not the kind of stuff that they grew up with. It's not like they grew up listening to this Indian classical music, which is so interesting because it's like all these notes that are in between the scales that we developed in Western classical music. And my aunt actually, she married my dad's brother. She is very much into music. She produces like albums and produces shows about like Indian music. And she was showing me it over the summer about like finding the notes in between and playing on the Indian scale. And it was really, really fun because I don't know. I never really have explored that side of Indian music, like the music side. I have like danced to Indian classical dance, and I've learned like the stories of Indian mythology before. But the music is the one side of that, like the performance aspect that I have not really delved into. But it is something that I would like to see, especially because people just put me in a box as like the American Indian, but I want to also be seen as an Indian person. So I think this is one thing that can definitely connect me to my culture in ways that like I don't have already.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Neeti, that was great. That was like very, very good.
I told you I'm pretty good at like doing interviews.